Hey, what's up guys and welcome back to Anime King. And today I'm going to be giving you part 17 of What If Naruto Was Personally Trained by Kurama After Leaving the Village. Remember to get this one to 100 likes as usual. Share this to all of your friends in your social media platform. And also guys, go ahead and check out the brand new episode of What If Naruto Awakened the Renitensegan over on Anime King 3 and enjoy that guys. And also over on Anime King 2 I post a brand new episode of What If Naruto's Put Through Hell, so go ahead and enjoy it as well. And I posted the final episode of What If Naruto Was an Elite Blue Eye Uchiha on this channel, so go ahead and enjoy it as well. And remember, if you're new, to go ahead and click that red subscribe button and become part of the Anime King family. And thank you for all for helping your support. And yeah, without further ado, with this we begin this new episode. Start the intro. So, the last spot we left off, Fu had flew into the way of the attack. As Naruto went ballistic after placing her down, he had dropped from the sky like a meteor and simply landed on his feet as he got her to the medics fast. He then went towards Deidara as Naruto tapped into the Fox power, as it was a different speed and strength that Deidara was not ready for, as Naruto was able to knock him right off the bird as Naruto beat him to a bloody pulp. Deidara managed to throw out one last single explosion though. It was a strange hollow ghost that was closed up together like a creature in a cocoon. As Naruto saw, it was ready to explode. He grabbed it and swallowed it. Something that might seem stupid at the time, but he swallowed it, as he had to save the village and everyone else around. The Kyuubi layered his inside to their chakra as he filled it to the core. As the explosion went off, Naruto's face and cheeks bulged. He opened his mouth towards Deidara's direction, and the explosion came out. Deidara's eyes went wide as he was consumed by the blast, as his body was obliterated. But Naruto knew that it wasn't done yet, so he couldn't afford himself to tap out as both him and Gaara made their way. As they came upon Sasori outside, Sasori didn't stand a chance against both of them, as with the tag team of Naruto and Gaara, they disassemble each and every one of Sasori's puppets before tearing him to pieces. So with that out of the way, Sasori was gone. As Naruto made his way to the hospital where Fu was, as Teiwai was there looking over her. She was fine as the co-main Cypher was healing her wounds quickly, as she would be back to normal as soon as possible, as Naruto was happy for that. Some time passed after that as the group made their way towards Konoha. Arriving at the village, they went towards Navi. Many people were looking at Naruto strange though, as they were muttering some words. Unknown to him, he looked exactly like Minato, especially with the bangs coming down his face as he entered. Snavy had to correct herself, as she nearly saved Minato, as Naruto wanted to see Sasuke's curse mark, as he might have a way of removing it, but Snavy told him that she couldn't do that because Sasuke was no longer here. A team led by Kabuto had rescued Sasuke out of prison, and they went off. As Snavy informed Naruto though of Orochimaru's last whereabouts, telling him not to do anything stupid and get himself killed. And she told Teiwai to watch over him, as she saw the two was rather close than normal. Perhaps they started a relationship between them. They made their way to visit Uncle, but Uncle was kind of sick, not in a state at all to really expect any guests. So after a bit of small talk, the group made their way out once again. So yeah guys, so basically that's what I've thought. You guys can switch across the place and check it out for yourself. So what do you say begin this new episode? Naruto released a small sigh of relief as they exit the gates of Konoha. As the walk-in coming down here, everyone was staring and whispering something. He didn't know what it was. There wasn't much to say between the three of them as they made their way through the forest. All of them lost in their own thoughts at their brief glimpse and visit in Konoha. Teiwai watched as Naruto hear Bob up and down as he jumped from tree branch to tree branch. Suddenly, a multitude of kunais hit him right in the chest as they flew with deadly accuracy. She was about to cry out in rage, but she had to dodge a couple that came towards her as well. As when she looked back, Naruto was no longer there. He was replaced with a log. She dropped down as Fu instantly landed beside her as well, worrying about her big brother even though she saw the substitution. Suddenly, a man was thrown harshly as he slammed into a tree. As Naruto stepped out in anger, not even a scratch on him, as the man was wearing a black cloak with a mask that resembled an animal, and the eye holes of the mask was darkened to the point where you couldn't even see the man's eyes. "Who are you?" said Naruto, rage in his voice. As the man looked up towards him, Naruto reached, but he heard a crunching sound as the man bit down on something. The man then started to convulse. As he died, he had bit down on a pill and killed himself. As Naruto removed the mask, it was an ordinary face. Foam was at the corner of the man's mouth. As Naruto looked at the mask, animal, Anbu mask wasn't supposed to look like these. He cursed. Now he wouldn't even know why this man attacked them. As he threw the mask and it hit right in the man's face. As his body dropped to the side, the man's mouth had opened when he got hit with the mask in the face. As Naruto noticed the man's tongue, it had a tattoo on it. Teiwai looked at him oddly as he grabbed the man's face and opened his mouth fully. He amazed as he reached and pulled out the tongue. Yes, there was black markings on it, he confirmed. As he looked closer, he saw that it was a seal. A very high quality one too. It had a silencing array that could be set off with a trigger word, but Naruto did not know what the trigger word was. There was also a kill switch seal in there as well, hidden under many suppression and information blocking seal. It was like a slave collar. As Naruto wondered what kind of person would allow a seal like this to be placed on their body, he pulled out a scroll that he liked to copy notes on. As he jotted down every single part of the seal, he would take a look on it later. As he stood up as Teiwai walked over. "What are you doing?" she said. As Naruto pointed down towards the man's tongue. "A seal." "What does it do?" she asked as she saw the seal. "It's basically a kill switch to prevent this man from talking about certain things. I don't know who this guy was, but he killed himself to protect any secret from getting out. That showed loyalty to his cause. Whoever sent him probably know I know phone jutsu, because I could have gotten that seal off." Naruto sighed. No, they had this to worry about, on top of everything else. "Come on, if we wait around here too long, we won't get to wait before nightfall." As Naruto walked over and placed an arm on Fu's shoulder, who was looking at the man. "Come on, Fu," he said. "We have to go now." She seemed startled as she came out of her haze, as she looked at him questioningly. "Come on, let's go," he said. As she nodded, he picked her up with his one arm and placed her on his back. As she settled into a more comfortable position, "We hurry, then you can go and see your friend Kojiro," said Naruto. Fu smiled and gripped his shoulder a bit harder, giving him the go-ahead to start running. That he did. Time skip. Naruto said it when he was 7, and he said it once again when he was 16 now. He hated the mess. It was just smothering the entire place, and it felt depressing and lonely. He couldn't see or hear more than a few feet ahead of him, and he hated to rely on his hearing out here, with techniques that are known as a silent killer. Fu and Teiwai are more on nerves, as they didn't have the hearing to hear as far as Naruto as well, as he had to stay close to him so they wouldn't get lost in the mist. It was also saturated with chakra. As Naruto cursed to himself, he's just in a letter ahead and getting a guide, but it was too late now. "Seriously," he said, as he tried to go onto the right path. "Is Konoha the only easy hidden village to find?" Teiwai was more vocal as she spoke. Well, not spoke, but cursed as she tripped over something, or when she turned and lost sight of Naruto. Fu was much quieter as she was here before, and she experienced these conditions before as well. "Hey shithead, are we there, or am I going to stop and ask for directions? How the hell should I know?" "We could be walking in circles," said Naruto, as he was becoming a bit more agitated as the hours dragged on, and Teiwai bitching and moaning was just making it worse. "We will get there when we get there. We're not stopping and asking for directions," he said. She huffed as she crossed her arms. Fu seemed to get more miserable and miserable as time passed, as Naruto wondered if it was because of Komi. If anything hated water more than an animal with fur, it was an insect, knowing that they could not fly if they get wet. He cursed as he slapped another mosquito that landed on his neck. It didn't seem to stop these ones though from flying. "You know what? Screw this," he said as he took in a deep breath. He forced his chakra in, saturating his lungs with both his and Kurama's chakra. "Wind style. Grand great breakthrough," he said. It was like a miniature hurricane as it ripped a couple trees right out of their roots. Naruto smiled to himself as he looked around the now mist-free environment. Tick mark appeared on Teiwai's head as he looked around. "You couldn't have done that 3 goddamn hours ago?" As Naruto placed a hand to his forehead, motioned for them to move on before the mist settled around them again. Fate seemed to throw them a bone for once as 2 figures appeared in a nearby tree. Naruto's hand went for a kuna, but he stopped when he saw a bitter look of their rivals. "Ayo? Kojiro?" Both men looked at Naruto and the group. "Naruto? Fu?" And Teiwai said Naruto. "Hi Fu," said Kojiro, as Fu smiled happily at him as a small blush came over his nose. "Hi Kojiro," she said, as she waved at him, and he started to blush even more. He was lacking in confidence, And he really needed more. After all, he was gonna be one of the 7 ninja swordsmen. I should have known it was you, Naruto. Only you would try to dispel all the myths around Kiri. Only you, said Ayo. You know, in my day, we used to hire guys for these sort of things, and their pay would go towards helping the village. Naruto simply nodded along, knowing that Ayo was starting to go into lecture mode. He never actually saw how long they last. May usually threatened him with death, and he stopped. So are you guys here to help us get to Kiri? Ayo shook his head. No. We were merely sent out here to investigate the high-level jutsu you use to clear the mist. Naruto smiled, simply shrugged, as Teiwai glared at him. Like I said, 3 goddamn hours ago would be better, she said. As Naruto kept his smile up but looked rather strained. So can you guys help us get to Kiri, said Naruto. We need to speak with me. As Kojiro's attention was looking around, mainly towards Fu, who was glancing around as well. Of course, May always look forward to your visits, said Ayo. As the group made their way, there were no gates to Kiri once more. As in the last battle, the Civil War, the gates had been destroyed so the rebels could march in and claim back their home. But the place was still shockingly beautiful, as a light streamed down towards the surrounding buildings. The material that they used, it just made the entire village glisten, and in the center there was a massive Kage tower. They mostly used the mist to help confuse their foes. That is why it was hard to get here, so it didn't matter if you got close enough. Ninjas who were used to the mist could probably pick you off rather easily, but the place was still not 100% yet, as there were scorch marks still all over the place, slash marks like kunai digging into the stone. There was also buildings that were broken down. Some of them were bent certain ways from explosions and massive attacks. As they all made their way towards the Mizukage's tower, as they were happy to get into the tower as outside was rather cold, but the ninjas were used to it though. Supposedly, the only time the mist cleared from Kiri itself for a couple of days was when Mei fought against Yagura, as her lava was so intensely hot that he was able to vaporize all the water from the air. That was how powerful her attack was, and it went away for a couple of days, but the mist came back though. As the secretary went inside to make sure that Mei was not busy, a few choice words and the secretary came back out, as Mei seemed rather angry, as Naruto could hear it. They were told to go in as they made the way, as Ayo and Kojo stood at her sides. Damn it, she shouted. I can see why Yagura lost it now. Why? Is there so much paperwork, she shouted. And why is it always saggy as she slammed her fist on the desk? Ayo coughed into his hand loudly, caused Mei to look up, not even realizing that people had entered her office, as she caught Naruto's blonde mop of hair, as her scowl melted away into a smile. Naruto, Fu, it's good to... She paused. Who are you, she said. She looked towards Teiwei. Ayo whispered something in her ear. Oh, so you're the girl that Naruto wouldn't stop talking about while he was here. He put down a lot of Kiri girls. That boy. As Teiwei blushed, as she looked over at her boyfriend, stood up, completely ignoring the paperwork. She wanted to do that from the beginning though. Before Naruto and Fu even knew what was going on, they were both pulled into a hug, as they were pressed up against their chests. Ayo simply raised an eyebrow, a disapproving look coming over his eyes. Really, Misama, that's improper. In my day, a woman hugging another man would get them some improper looks unless they were married. Of course, Mei only heard a few of the words. Woman, man, get married. Ayo, she said that wonderful smile as she broke the hug with the other two. Shut up, or I'll kill you, she said. The room went quiet as Ayo wondered what he did this time. As everyone's sweat dropped, Mei then walked back around her decks. So, what do I owe the pleasure, she asked. Actually, we came to ask about the standby. We understand it was released once Yagura was killed, said Naruto. Mei looked down in sadness for a moment. Yagura was her friend once. It pained her to kill him the way she had to kill him. Yes, it was released. We were by the shore when he died. The standby disappeared into the waters. What's going on, she asked. No, said Naruto. This isn't about the village. We're only here to make sure that Orochimaru doesn't get his hands on the standby and get some information about his whereabouts. Well, said Mei, that confirmed the sighting of sound ninjas on the coast. As Naruto raised the eyebrow, that meant Orochimaru had already made his move. I have no idea what the snake think that he can do that to the abyss. I hope it ripped his head off. As Naruto also wondered about that, the only thing that made sense was for Orochimaru to make a Jinchuriki. If Naruto was gonna help it, he wouldn't allow it to happen. He would never let a poor child to live. With Orochimaru as a Jinchuriki, the things the man would do. We are currently too busy with the repairs and fortifications. But if you're willing to take care of the problem, I have no problem telling you the details. As Naruto nodded, bowing his head in thanks. Well, supposedly, the sightings are all at the east coast where Yagura died. It made no sense to start searching there though, because in my opinion the standby is long gone, she said. As if Isabi is a real lazy bastard. I bet he hasn't even moved 100 feet than where he is. That big turtle is so docile, it makes me wonder how we even came from the same chakra source, said Kurama. As Naruto glanced towards Fu, from her expression he could tell that she was receiving information from Komi as well. Are you sure, Kurama? Said Naruto. Yep, said Kurama. Well, thank you, Mitsukage-sama, said Naruto. We will start looking there. Please, I told you before, call me Mei. Mitsukage made me sound so old, she said. As Naruto nodded, as he smirked, Mei's insecurity about her age and marriage were known through the land of water. Not that anyone would dare talk about it around her. Ayo accompanied them towards the last location of the standby. We will know what our guests get lost, she said with a smirk. It's not our fault that we didn't grow up in this mess, said Naruto. How did you guys even navigate around it in a way? Mei simply smirked. We have our ways. Although Ayo have his own method, she didn't elaborate on that. As she dismissed the group, she looked back towards the paperwork. What the hell? It grew! Where are you even coming from? She screamed. As Naruto and Teiwai left snickering. Do you think we should have told her about using shadow clones, said Naruto? As Teiwai simply laughed some more. As A heard that, he would use that to get back in her good graces. He would tell her about it. Time skip. Nothing but running and jumping from tree branch to tree branch. When Ayo finally came to a stop and held up a hand, as they stopped as well. As the fog parted just a bit as Naruto saw glimmering blue waters. Before them was a massive beach spread out in all directions. There was a few boulders jutting out of the water. But other than that, going down it was deep. Okay, we're here, so what now? Both Fu and Teiwai looked incredulously, while Ayo regarded Naruto curiously. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? You don't have any plan? As Teiwai smacked him over the head. Great. Just goddamn great. What's gonna happen if we even find the thing? Don't worry. He's near, said Naruto. As Ayo looked at Naruto curiously, wondering how he knew that. As Naruto realized that some people didn't know about his tenant, yes. He kinda forgot about that sometime. Very well, said Ayo. I have escorted you as ordered. When you require a guide, use that same jutsu as before. Either me or another will come to escort you back. Naruto nodded his thanks as he wanted to change in man's attitude, but he did not question it. With that, the group made their way towards the coastline of the beach. Well, Kurama, said Naruto. As Kurama nodded his head, yes, Isabi is close, I can feel him. He's deep below the waters, although I'm not sure how you plan on bringing him out. He's peace and quiet. He loves it a lot. And if he had his way, he would just sleep at the bottom of the ocean for the rest of his life. As Naruto cringed, it was much too docile for his taste. How could you live your life with no excitement or adventure? It will feel too empty. What about flaring your chakra or Komi's? Wouldn't that bring him out to investigate Naruto acts? Kurama shook her head. No, Isabi hates us, almost as Shikaku. As he really hates people disturbing him. And he really hates being a tail beast because people always try to steal away his power. And he just wants to be left alone in peace. As Naruto gazed at the massive ocean, as Naruto saw the sun was setting. Alright, there's nothing we can do today, he said. We should head to the forest and set up camp, he said. Teiwai looked rather displeased. She didn't like it out here. Her hair was becoming a bit humid, and everything was just so wet. She definitely wasn't looking forward to sleeping in the mist. Everything would get soaked in the night. As he looked towards Fu, who looked distracted. More days she spoke with Komi, as he wondered if he looked that way when he do it as well with Kurama. No, kid. You look a lot more idiotic, said Kurama. Naruto grumbled a bit as he made their way in the forest. Time skip. Fu was the first to wake up. It doesn't matter how long she spent with Naruto. She still couldn't get more than a few hours of sleep. It never really affected her, so she never minded. But that meant a lot of fumbling around in the darkness. Why can't I have night vision like Big Brother, she thought to herself. It's not fair, then again she could fly. And that was better. As Naruto always said his jealousy about that part. She noticed that the mist had cleared up, giving them more visibility. She stood up as she let her wings unfurl, as she stretched her muscles. She thought about taking a quick flight, but she thought against it as she didn't know who might see her. So she chose a random direction and started to walk. As she just investigated, out of boredom, she wouldn't get lost as she could find Naruto rather easily. Finding other Jinjulkis was rather easy, but for her and Naruto, it was like finding her own hand. As long as they weren't separated too much, they could find one another. It was just another benefit their tenants give them. As she wandered through the forest, taking in the smell and the sight, she loved nature. Not one particular thing, but she just loved everything about nature. It was just so beautiful, calm, and just nice. As she saw a boy, he was just standing there. He was looking towards a massive tree. She folded her wings back in. He was about her age. As she watched as he sat down, he had something in his palms. She couldn't make out what it was, but it glittered a bit in the early morning sun. As she walked out in the clearing as the boy saw her, He was wearing a brown shirt with navy pants. She wondered what he was doing out here, wondering if there was a village nearby. The boy looked towards her. Who are you? Fu just smiled as the boy got a small blush. She noticed it has been happening around boys her own age. I'm Fu, she said. The boy smiled back. I'm Yukimaru, he said. Fu smiled brightly as she skipped over as she tried to see the object in his hand. What's that? She asked. Yukimaru covered it, but she saw pink glass. Why do you want to know? Fu simply shrugged as she looked around the clearing at the multiple of colors, at the flowers all around. I don't know. Just curious, she said. Yukimaru looked at her, but not with suspicion. He looked just intrigued. What are you doing out here? There aren't any villagers around here. Fu looked back at him, just smiling. I could ask you the same thing. Yukimaru gulped, even though there was no malice in Fu's voice. She asked him it rather calmly. He wondered if it was because of her, as she noticed that boys seemed to change when they were around her. Like the sand, boys around her age. Also Kojiro as well. I like to take walks in the morning. I'm traveling with people. That scare me a little bit, he said. Fu cocked her head to the side. Then why do you travel with them? Yukimaru looked down back at his hands at the object. They aren't all bad. Guren is nice to me, and Gozu is nice to her. So they can't all be that bad. Others, they're kind of mean though. But they don't do anything or Guren will get really mad. Fu understand that to go somewhere with someone, because you care about them. And it doesn't matter who they're with. If you don't like the other person, you would definitely do it. So is this Guren person special to you? Asked Fu. Yukimaru smiled as he looked up. Yeah, I didn't have many people after my parents died. But when I found Guren, she was nice to me. He looked around before he slowly opened his arms. She gave me this. Fu saw a white flower. It was encased in a crystal. A pink crystal. Perfect. Wow, it's really pretty. Yukimaru closed his arms over it. Don't worry, I'm not gonna take it or anything. It's obviously really precious to you. He nodded as he looked towards her headband. So, are you a shinobi? I don't recognize the headband, he said. This was a gift from my precious person. My big brother, she said. Except he isn't really my brother, but he acts like it. He's the first person that ever showed me kindness in my life. Yukimaru nodded as he understood. Why does it say 7? Aren't they supposed to have the symbol for your village? As Fu thought about that, my big brother had the same thing, but he said 9. He says that our loyalty shouldn't have to be to a village. They can be destroyed, moved, or rebuilt. His loyalty are to the friends that he made and the people he loved. That is what he told me. Yukimaru smiled. This person sounded like Guren, although she was loyal to Orochimaru. Why 7 or 9? Fu simply smiled as he blushed once again. That's a secret. Yukimaru wanted to ask more, but he was a bit shy around this strange girl. So what about you? Why are you out here? So far away from any village, she actually looked around. Yukimaru looked down. I'm not supposed to say. Fu opened her mouth before she closed it once again. They sat in silence for a while. They weren't sure how to continue the conversation, as the answer was given for them. Fu! She looked up to where she heard the voice from. It was Naruto. She knew that much. Yukimaru seemed like he was afraid, so she placed a hand on his shoulder, as he blushed once again. Don't worry. That's my big brother. He's probably just worried about me. Yukimaru smiled. Brother must be a good person if he was worried about her. Naruto chose that moment to walk in the clearing, already knowing where Fu was, thanks to their connection. Here you are, Fu. What did I tell you about her enough? Fu looked down as she sighed, in an exasperating form. To come back before you wake up. He nodded. He didn't mind her having walks in the morning, but he didn't like to wake up and not see her there. As he looked towards the boy beside her. Fu, who's this? Fu smiled up at him as she patted Yukimaru on the shoulder. This is Yukimaru. I met him on my walk. As Naruto smiled, it was just Fu, trying to make many friends as possible. Hi Yukimaru, said Naruto. I'm Naruto. He held out a hand while crouching down, as the boy slowly took it and shook hands. I hope Fu wasn't too much trouble for you. As Fu pouted, as Yukimaru blushed once again. No, she was really nice. As Naruto's warm smile returned as he looked between them, his eyes narrowing. Well good, said Naruto. Fu catches the slight way he talked, as she scowled at that. She wanted to tell him it wasn't like that she and Yukimaru were just friends, but she didn't want to upset the boy's feelings. Tell you why I told her that boys were clueless about romance, and would deny any feelings that they have. As Naruto felt something. Yukimaru, what are you doing out here? As a blue-haired woman came out in the clearing. Her hair was shaped like a pineapple, as it went down into her back, spiky up. As she was wearing a green lime kimono with a thick yellow rope wrapped around downwards, with a knot at the back. She narrowed her eyes at the two figures. Something about the blonde one struck her a bit, but she couldn't remember. Who are you two? She said. Hi, I'm Naruto Uzumaki. As Guren's eyes narrowed slightly. This was the boy that Kabuto was telling her about. Except he wasn't a boy, he was actually a young man. If he wasn't an enemy, Guren might have been attracted to him, as he was remarkably handsome in a wild kind of way. Guren, she said, as Naruto nodded. Sorry if I kept her friend my sister. seemed to have taken a liking to him, said Naruto. Both Yukimaru and Fu blushed as Fu scowled at Naruto as he simply smiled to her irritated face. Guren, on the other hand, looked at Yukimaru curiously. She had never seen him make a friend before. A part of her was happy, while another worried about what effects this could have on the mission. It's no problem, as Naruto nodded. Bye, Fu, Naruto, said Yukimaru, as the other two made their way off. So, said Naruto, what was that about? Fu scowled in annoyance. Shut up, she said, as she made her way off back to camp. As Naruto laughed. As Naruto did not shut up, he teased her all the way back to camp, to the point where she started to throw rocks at him for him to shut up, but he simply dodged them all. Both of them sweat dropped when they found TOI still fast asleep, as he was drooling on Naruto's pillow. Fu just looked at her and back at Naruto, who started to pack up at the gear in the bags. Shouldn't we wake TOI up? Yeah, sure, said Naruto. Why don't you do that while I finish with the packing? Fu was confused as she wondered why he was acting so strange. He walked over and nudged TOI's shoulder. The girl just groaned as she snuggled deeply into the pillow. He pushed her to harder, as one of TOI's arms came up and wrapped her on her neck and pulled her down. TOI said. Feeling frisky this morning, Naruto. As Fu tried to pull away, but TOI pulled her face right into her chest, as Naruto stifled his laughter from where he was on the other side of the fire, dousing it. As Fu managed to pry herself away. I'll go do the scout, she said. She quickly made her way off. TOI sat up, with a smirk on her face. That will teach her to wake me up this early. So, what's the plan, she said. Don't know, said Naruto. Thought I'll just wing it. TOI sighed. So, the usual then, she said. He shrugged. So with that, the group made their way, as they were all walking on top of the water. Thankful that the mist had cleared so they could see better. Fu was doing her best not to look at TOI, while said redhead had to contain her giggles every time Fu looked her way. As Naruto raised a hand, tell them to stop. As Fu got a look on her face as well. As TOI knew that look. It was a look when they were connecting with her Biju. Okay, Kyuubi said that ice will be somewhere below us. As he looked towards Fu, who nodded. I say we drive the standby off, to make it run away from here so Orochimaru cannot find it. The both of them nodded, as that was the best plan they came up with. As Naruto formed a familiar hand sign as 30 clones poof into existence. I will stand back if I were you guys, said Naruto. As Fu and TOI stood back, TOI's mind went rather perverted, thinking about how that jutsu would be in bedroom. The clones all arranged themselves in a giant circle. As Naruto, the real one, took a step back as well. TOI took a step back. Naturally, if Naruto wasn't with his clones, it meant that they were about to do something stupid. All of the clones gripped their wrists as a Rasengan formed in their hands, about the size of their head. As they slammed the Rasengan into the water, it created a massive whirlpool. As the clones sank deeper and deeper into the waters, the whirlpool started to grow until they overlapped with each other. In the center, the water started to swift and stray until it started to spin around and around. As the attack spin into one giant maelstrom, spinning the clones around and around as they forced themselves to stay on top. The whirlpool became so deep, you could see straight down towards the ocean floor. Fu and TOI watched in amazement as Naruto opened up a void straight down the center of the ocean he could see right into. Right at the bottom, an enormous eye cracked open. As the standby roared, Kurama, Komi, you dare show yourself to me. As Naruto blinked in surprise. Oh, that's right. I forgot about the thing with his eye, said Kurama. As Naruto looked down, he could see that one of the beast's eye was injured, as a tail shot from the vortex, and two more followed behind it. The balance of the clones were disrupted, causing them to lose their footing, and the Rasengans dissipate. The ocean water came crashing back in, as Fu took to the skies. As Naruto and TOI rushed back to the shores, as the water dropped over them the moment they arrived. As Fu landed behind them, as she put her wings back. Well, that's great. Have any other ideas, she said as she looked towards Naruto, with an angry tick mark. Nope, Fu, said Naruto. As Fu thought about it, she shook her head. She didn't know what to do either. Well then I guess we're stuck here until the people that Orochimaru sent come to try to take away the standby. They would probably know a way how to get it out of there. And if Orochimaru does want a Jinchuriki, they would probably try to use a child. So our priority is to get a child away from them and eliminate the Sound Ninjas so they can't do it again. TOI sighed before nodded, as Fu nodded as well. So that is what they did. They moved back as they took up a position overlooking the coast. They spread out, covering more grounds, and occasionally Naruto flashed between them to see if they found anything. After about 3 hours of waiting, they wonder if those rumors about Orochimaru was just rumors. Finally, Naruto spotted something, a small group of odd people emerged from the tree lines. As they looked around for any enemies, there were 7 of them in total, as there was a man there in a strange, grey bodysuit. A man that had a mask strapped on his face, a breather mask, a bulky man with a narrow face, a younger man with a cocky smirk on his face, a tall woman and a small child. As Naruto narrowed his eyes, looking at the woman and the child, he recognized them. It was Guren and Yukimaru. As Naruto's eyes narrowed, as he focused on Yukimaru, he should have known. So, he is the one they want to meet the Jinchuriki. He quickly sent a message towards Teikwa and Fu, telling them not to interfere, as he wanted to see how they were going to try and bring out the standby first. He watched as they made their way towards the highest cliff on the coast. Looking over the calm waters, Yukimaru walked out towards the edge. As he glanced back at Guren, who nodded. As the boy nodded back, he then started to scream. Blue light started to emanate from his body as it shot straight up into the sky, as he literally glowed with energy. As Naruto felt affected by this cry, it was like it was calming him and putting him at complete peace. He shook his head off it, knowing that he needed to be alert for what might come next. As Naruto saw the water ripple, before something poked its head out of the water, it was a standby. It looked around, before it looked towards Yukimaru. As Naruto didn't know why, but he had the urge to rush over to Yukimaru as well, as he didn't know what the hell was going on. Yukimaru then fell down, as the standby went back underwater. As Naruto noticed that Guren rushed over quickly and catch Yukimaru before he hit the ground. She seemed to show so much care for him. Naruto was confused, usually. These people are heartless, not to mention they're about to turn him into a weapon. So why would she show so much care for Yukimaru? He wasn't sure what to do now. Their attempts of bringing the standby out has obviously failed. It seems like Yukimaru wasn't as strong to do what he was meant to do. As Naruto watched, waiting to see if they have anything else to do. As Naruto sent a message towards Fu and Teikwa. A few seconds later, they appeared beside him. So what now? They feel, right? Naruto nodded, his eyes still focused on Guren, holding on to Yukimaru. Big brother, what's going on? Why is Yukimaru with those people? Asked Fu. Like I said Naruto as he turned towards them. The priority is to get Yukimaru away from them. Keep one of them alive, preferably Guren. She seemed to be the leader. Teikwa was a bit confused that Naruto knew the names of these people, but she nodded. Teikwa, you take the short one and the one in the gas mask. Fu, you take the blue one and the one with the scarf. I'll take Dumbo and the leader, said Naruto. If you see a chance to get away with Yukimaru, do not hesitate, but make sure they can't come after us. After receiving the two nods in need, Naruto turned back around. Meanwhile, the group was clustered around Yukimaru. Using off his power nearly drained his energy completely, and yet the standby hadn't fully revealed itself. Guren checked over him, making sure he was going to be okay, before she looked back towards her team. Renji, get him a... She was cut off as a sudden blonde appeared out of nowhere, as he grabbed Yukimaru and took off with him further out in the water. It all happened so fast that Guren could barely get her senses in. The next moment, a green blur appeared and slammed a kick into Renji's jaw, as he was sent hurtling into the water, already unconscious from the kick. Not too later, Teikwa appeared with her bow staff in hand, cracking with lightning as she knocked the other guy out. Cagery. Guren's team was given no time to recover, as Teikwa immediately engaged Gyu, the guy with the construction on his arm. As Fu went towards the feminine man, as he moved off, his body was really slippery. Guren could only watch as her teammates were taken down in seconds. As Naruto got further away with Yukimaru, Gozu, with me, we need to rescue Yukimaru. The large man nodded as he took off on the water with Guren. But Naruto ordered create a clone and give Yukimaru the clone. As he stood there, waiting for the both of them to catch up. As Guren arrived, showing that her speed far outclassed Gozu, as she narrowed her eyes dangerously towards Naruto. Crystal release. Jade. Crystal blade, she said. Meanwhile, Bates dropped, said Teikwa as she slammed her staff in the ground. The ground cracked as the man she was fighting, Q, fell underneath. He suddenly found himself trapped as the earth cased around his body. She moved forward only for the man to shout out, "Smoke Dragon!" As Teikwa leaped back as the smoke dragon came towards her, she spun her staff. But the thing passed right through her staff, as it didn't have an intangible body. It was smoke. The thing then surrounded her head as she held her breath, just in case it was poison. Her vision was obscured and her eyes started to water. It was at this time she wished she had a win a fainting like Naruto. He could just blow this thing away. She had to do something fast, as a thought struck her. She started to draw in lightning chakra in her body, as she started to rub it together until there was friction. She used this spark to send her muscles into overdrive, as she strike her muscles all over. The staff in her hand started to spin a lot faster as it spins so fast. You could only see a lightning blur. The smoke dragon started to warp as she was sucking it in, as she created a vacuum with her staff. Kyo cursed as he couldn't believe that she was able to escape. Stay away and move off with the lightning coursing through her veins. Bam! Her staff smashed into the man's face, shattering his goggles. as she started to send healing medical chakra through her body to fix her muscles, which she has sent lightning chakra through. As she turned back to the water to see it turning violently. What the hell are you doing, shithead, she thought. Meanwhile, Fu was weaving through the air, avoiding the man, as his body was liquefied. It hit her once and it dragged her down. She knew if she got any on her wings, she would be done for. Going hand to hand with this guy would be a big mistake, so she would not. She took a deep breath before she exhaled her golden particles, as they immediately caught the light, as the place got surrounded in a bright swallowing light. Nuri did something with his slimy suit, as the light seemed to bend around it, protecting his eyes. Fu had to leap from a nearby tree, as she had landed there to watch. The man fired a glob towards her that encased the tree. He was aiming for her head, as she twists and dive in mid-air. The man then did something strange. He started firing all opposite direction, as Fu kept on flying, as she then realized something. She cursed as she looked up as he slammed right on her back. After all, the rule of gravity, what goes up always come back down, as he hit her wing, and she started to plummet down to the ground. She lashed out her hand as she grabbed a tree branch and flipped. She made sure that she did not lean her back on anything so that she would get stuck. Her ears twitched as she heard something as she moved, as the tree got slimed completely. She threw a couple of kunais. The man appears, they stab into his arm, as he simply smiled. Wind style, Fu said, wind shuriken, as she threw the shurikens covered in wind. She watched as the man bled as it sliced through his skin, as he cried out in a girlish way, so he can't get hurt, as she shot forward. The man was clutched over as he clutched his arm in pain. Wind style, grand wind shuriken, said Fu. She launched a giant shuriken. It bisected the man in two, but he turned into slime as he was a clone. She leaped up in the air as the ground was covered by that slime once again. She forced wind chakra through her legs as she shot forward, slamming her fist into his face, the only part that was not covered by the slime. A crunching sound could be heard as the man was thrown. He screamed in rage. My nose! You broke my nose! As the man looked up, Fu was already in front of him. As her feet came down, BAM! He was knocked out cold. She then turned her head as she saw the sea where the water was picking up violently. Oh no, big brother. Meanwhile, as Naruto swing, BAM! His foot connected into Guren's chest. But the woman stood there, as Naruto felt like he hit a solid wall. She smirked as she drove her blade across his chest. As Naruto flipped back as it barely grazed him, he landed as he was confused. He then saw the light reflected off her body. It was like she was encased in crystal. As Naruto looked up as a giant arm tried to squash him, as he turned his attention towards the second opponent, the brute of a man that could change his body into mud at any time. But, lucky for Naruto, all earth techniques were weak against lightning, and not to mention they were standing on a body of water. As he leaped out of the way, dodging the giant fist that impacted with the water, as he pulled the scroll in mid-air, and there was a poof, as the two Raito followed right into his hands, as he could feel the blades buzz with excitement, as he raised him up to the sky. Lightning release, lightning ball. As he waited until a massive ball of lightning was formed, he slammed it to where Gozu was. As the man's skeleton could be seen as the man was electrocuted. It wouldn't be enough to kill this brute of a man. After all, he just wanted to incapacitate him after all. Guren, on the other hand, seemed unaffected even though the lightning was striking around her as well. The armor on her body just cracked a bit. As he raised the Kiba blades towards her, pointing them towards her. Give up, he said. I won't let you turn Yukimaru into a Jinjulke. Guren snarled at him as she enlarged the crystal blade in her arm. As she shot forward, Guren thought that her arm blades were going to cut right through the blades. But to her surprise, Naruto sliced the blades in half, without even much effort, as she watched her crystal fall. There was a reason why they were known as the sharpest blades in the elemental nation. Meanwhile, Yukimaru struggled in the clone arm, as it was moving away from the battle. No, stop! Guren! What about Guren? The clone tried to ignore the boy, knowing that if he let him go, he would be turned into a Jinjulke. As Yukimaru saw lightning came down from the heaven. No! Guren, he screamed as explosion went off around the boy. It was that blue energy that exploded the clone. As Yukimaru cried out. Meanwhile, as Guren was moving back, as she was on defensive, as Naruto sliced at her armor with the Kiba blade. His last electric shock from the heavens woke up something though that was really pissed now. The water exploded as a sandbar emerged. As the sandbar reacted to Yukimaru's presence as he leaped up in the mid-air. Both Naruto and Guren looked up as the thing came dropping back down on them. The both of them thought the exact same thing at that moment. Shit. Fu and Tioya reach the scene just as the sandbag crashed back down the waters, taking both Naruto and Guren with it. As Tioya saw Yukimaru as he collapsed down to the ground, that blue energy fading around him, the ocean had calmed once more. Tioya looked around as Naruto was nowhere to be seen, as she felt a tug at her heart, but she calmed herself. Naruto gave them a mission. She looked towards a passed out boy and picked him up. She knew that he would be alright. It was Naruto after all. Fu was looking around as she was trying to find her big brother. Come on, Fu. We need to run up those guys and make sure they can't escape while we wait for Naruto. Fu looked confused as she just looked around. Weren't they gonna go find Naruto? He's gonna be fine, Fu. Believe it. And he'd want you to be strong right now. It's Naruto we're talking about here. Fu weakly smiled. Yeah, they were talking about Naruto. He was gonna be fine. Time skip. As Naruto woke up to the dripping, for a second there he thought that his mind skip had reverted back to the sewer, but it was not. As water was dripping on his head. Hey, Kurama. What the hell's going on? Where am I? I don't think that you would like my answer, kid, she said. As Naruto tried to remember what happened before he paused. No. It ate me? As Naruto looked around, the sandbite, it ate him. As Naruto looked around, this certainly didn't look like the stomach of tail beast. Well, he's not been in one before. Well, he's been in a snake before, but this was completely different. Hard, rocky surface, and an iron brown. It made no sense. Was this actually a stomach? Hey, Kurama, how am I gonna get out of here? Naruto asked. Why the hell are you asking me? You think I've been here before? She asked. As Naruto sighed, as he looked around, he just started to walk. It seems like Yukimaru has a connection to Isobe for some reason. And his emotions when he get angry. Because he was the one that called the three tails. He didn't know if Guren was dead. Because he didn't know where she was at the moment. Probably she was in here with him, after all. She was right beside him. Perhaps she got eaten as well. But something was wrong though. He saw the look on Guren's face when Yukimaru had collapsed. She was concerned, she was worried. It was like she actually cared for him. But she was a subordinate of Orochimaru. Perhaps it was an act, a trick or something. As Naruto kept on walking, he didn't even know he was walking in circles, as the place looked exactly the same. He then heard footsteps as Guren walked out of a different passage. You! As she raised her hand before she collapsed onto the floor, clutching her side, as Naruto cautiously walked over to her. He didn't know what this woman game was. As he looked down towards her, she didn't seem to be that bad. She actually wanted to keep the boy safe. And hell, no one deserved to die in a place like this. Well, except for Orochimaru, as she was out cold. As Naruto checked her side, as her kimono was stained blood red. As he examined the wound, a own shard of her crystal armor had shattered and gashed her side, probably from the act of getting eaten. He cursed to himself. Tioya was the one with the medical ninjutsu. He knew nothing of it, except for the first aid taught to the academy. The medical kit that he always kept on his thigh, in a seal, as he unsealed it and started to wipe at the wound. Even in her unconscious state, Guren still winks. He cleaned her up and bandaged the wound. He still needed to find a way out of here, but at the same time he couldn't leave her alone in this condition, as he didn't know how the sandbite digested food, and he really didn't want to find out. As he picked up Guren's bridal style, as Naruto cursed, no matter where he went, all of it looked all the same. As Guren twitched in his arm, as she started to gain back consciousness, she looked around as she turned her head, noticing that she was still in the sandbite's stomach. But she realized that she was moving. She looked up as she saw the blonde hair. You. What are you doing? She said as she struggled to get out of his grip. Put me down. But she winks in pain as her injuries start to act up. As Naruto walked over and placed her down, gently. As he looked over her, she looked different from Orochimaru lackeys. She looked more like Anko in fact, as he wondered if she could. He shook his head. He didn't even know anything about this woman yet. She touched her side. You bandaged my wound? Why? I don't leave people to die when they can't defend themselves. Not when they did nothing to me. I'm not Orochimaru. Guren stared back at him defiantly. Don't talk about Orochimaru-sama like that, she said. Why not, said Naruto. All he has ever done is brought pain and misery. He tried to hurt Tioya. He killed the old man. He tried to hurt Tsunade. What the hell do you even serve him? Wouldn't understand, she said. Oh, I would, said Naruto. You wouldn't. Lord Orochimaru saved me from a village that despised me because of what I could do. What the hell would you know about that? As Naruto's anger left him, as he looked at Guren, he saw himself, a young Gaara and Fu. He lowered his head. I understand. I understand better than you know, he said. Guren only got angrier at that. No, you don't. Kabuto told me about you. You're from the sand, aren't you? They already have two Jinchuriki, Who are you for judging Lord Orochimaru to have the same thing? You just want Yukimaru for yourself so the Sand could use him as a weapon. As Naruto looked at her, yeah, the Sand has two Jinchuriki, and you're looking at one of them. I understand what it feels like to be hated for something you have no control over whatsoever. That made them fear and despise you because you don't know what to do, and no one really taught you about it. That's why I went to the Sand, so I didn't have to leave those people who hated me. You think I want to put Yukimaru through all of that? If you're thinking that you're as delusional as your leader, said Naruto. Guren gaze falter a bit. You're a Jinchuriki? Yep, you looked at the container for the 90th Fox, said Naruto. As Guren looked towards his headband, it now made sense. She thought, and that girl? Yeah, Fu as well, said Naruto. I saved her from our village. They hated her, and they treated her badly, so I rescued her and brought her with me. So she wouldn't have to grow up alone, with no one to care about her. It also meant that she wouldn't fall dance of people like Orochimaru. As Guren heard the passion in his voice, he cared a lot for that girl, much like she did for Yukimaru. Why are you telling me all of this? She asked. As Naruto looked down towards her. Because I believe there's still a good person inside of you. Good that is wasted on a scumbag like Orochimaru. He might have saved you from your village, but I bet after that he forced you into all kinds of situations that you hated. Situations that forced you to ignore your humanity, to blindly follow him. If you're worrying about him hurting you, then don't. Because once I get rid of the Akatsuki and make sure that those are closest to me is safe, he's next. Guren looked at him, and she started to laugh. As she had to hold on her injury as it started to pain as she laughed. You really think you can defeat Lord Orochimaru? And you call me delusional? If I wasn't in so much pain, I would laugh some more, she said. As Naruto simply scowled, he might not be ready to face Orochimaru yet, but once he dealt with the Akatsuki, he'll have the experience that he needs to finally end the snake. You will be surprised at what I can really do. As she narrowed her eyes, Kabuto once told her that this kid was dangerous, but she didn't really see it herself. Sure, he had a few powerful line techniques, but that wasn't everything. Surely, he kept something to himself like she did. If you aren't after Yukimaru, why are you here? As Naruto glanced around, he heard some sort of clattering, and it sounded to be getting louder. Or probably was hearing things. I need information. Orochimaru put a curse seal on Teiwaya. I need to find Sasuke Uchiha so I can take a look at his mark and get rid of the one on her, said Naruto. First Orochimaru, know the Uchiha. Are you crazy? I seen what that kid can do. You're outclassed, trust me. There's no point in trying to find him though. Lord Orochimaru is always at his side. Naruto simply chuckled to himself. Yeah. You would be surprised at how many times I was outclassed in a fight. Some might have said that Sorcerer of the Red Sand or Dater of the Stone was too much for me. Guren gasped. That was impossible. She heard those names before. They were a part of the organization Orochimaru used to be in. They're S-rank missing names. You're lying, she said. As Naruto was about to say something, but the clattering got louder. The both of them turned their head. What the hell? But guys, if you ain't subscribed right here, if you want to see the next part, so do like, subscribe, comment down below, and turn on that bell notification to stay posted. Remember, share to all of your friends in your social media platform. And also, guys, stay in tune for the rest of what is coming your way, and I hope you guys enjoy each and every one of them. But for now, I'm out of here. See you guys soon. Peace.